How the hell am I supposed to hit my protein target if I'm a vegetarian? You're like, yeah, there's a lot you can't have, but there's a lot that you can have.
It does get more difficult if you're new to trying to get more protein in your diet. Haven't.
Protein is everywhere right now. You've probably heard that you need to eat more. How much is more? Can you eat too much?
I do definitely want to get into the protein hype that's been going on. There's like protein water, protein Weetabix. It's just crap.
Do you have some ideal recommendations for breakfast, lunch, dinners and snacks? Most clients would rather have a cup of tea and a snack and an egg at 3 in the afternoon.
You just said a very British thing. Most of the women we coach are malnourished in some way because they've done so many fad diets that are so restrictive for so long.
There's nothing worse than trudging along on a calorie deficit, being starving all the time, really depleted all the time. Increasing your protein can help with that. Historically, people think, I need to get muscles.
Need to get jacked.
Yeah, that's not why we're saying it.
No, it's for so many different reasons, but the main ones are going to be, especially if you're looking to try and like lose weight, is... Hi, I'm Jaymie.
And I'm Stacey.
And this is the Body Smart Podcast.
We are women's weight loss experts and we are on a mission to empower you to feel permanently in control of your weight and your health. And on that note, knowledge is power. Well, you like to say applied.
I like to say applied knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you guys wanted more knowledge about one particular macro, which was protein. And unless you've been living under a rock, protein is everywhere right now. We were just saying, like, you can't go anywhere in the shops without protein this, protein yogurt, protein bars. And if you've been trying to improve your health or lose weight, you've probably heard that you need to eat more protein. But there seems to be a lot of confusion about, like, how much is more? How do you even do that? Can you eat too much? All these questions you guys inundated us with. And so we're here today to answer them all.
Yes, we certainly are.
So let's start with how much, because there is quite a broad range of recommendations. If you put into Google, how much protein should I eat?
Yeah.
You'll get anything from like the recommended daily allowance, which is pretty low, to like what a bro bodybuilder would eat, which is pretty high. So what do we even do here?
So I like to go off lean body mass. An easy way to look at that is it's your total weight minus your body fat. And people get like a little bit hell-bent about this, like, oh, like how do I know my body fat percentage? So we've made a calorie quiz where you can go through and there's like 9 images and it's like, which one of these do you think you look closest to in a range of body fat percentage? So like, let's say you're 200 pounds and, you know, we think you're, 20% body fat, that would be 40 pounds of fat. So let's say your lean body mass is 160 pounds and we do 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass. So that'd be 160 grams of protein for that person. That's 20% body fat's actually really lean for a woman.
Yeah.
So, you if you were that weight at that body fat percentage, you're probably going to be quite tall as well. I would have a guess. But yeah, that's roughly what we go for. There's other, I think you've shared a few that other studies back up where you can just basically take it off your weight. This I just find gets you the amount of protein that you need without needing an excessive amount of protein where you don't get to spend those calories and carbs and fats instead.
Yeah, and I think what's helpful as well is if you have got an extra bit of body fat and you're trying to eat 200 grams of protein, that is a lot.
Yes.
Actually, a really helpful way of looking at it that I heard someone say is eat for the body you're trying to get to. So that's another option. So like, what's your goal weight? Say it's 140 pounds. You could eat for that amount because that's probably the right amount of lean muscle as well, if you were going to be training to get there and eating the right way to get there. But if you have looked at like RDAs or recommended daily allowances and you're hearing like 140s, 200s, what are these guys talking about? Because apparently I only need like 50 grams.
Yeah.
And that's what, if you look on, if you're in America, like the national guidelines, and in the UK, the NHS guidelines will tell you that it's about 0.8 grams per kilo, as we've said, 1 gram minimum. Yeah. But what we want to really emphasize today is that will be your baseline. Like, that's what you need as a recommended daily minimum. But that's just to be okay.
Yeah.
And actually, if you want to thrive and if you want to feel strong and you want to train with weights, which we recommend everybody does 3 times a week at least, then you're going to need a little bit more than that to replenish your muscles.
So that's 0.8 per kilo.
Yes.
So that, I mean, I'm about 95 kilos. So like, let's say that would be like 80 or like 75 for me. I'm having like over double that on a daily basis. Which again, like you're saying, like as a baseline, like that's probably like the least that you want to be getting, but ideally probably a lot more.
Yeah. And it would tell me to have 50 grams.
Yeah.
Whereas I aim for 100 at least. So we do often talk about that 100 actually. So it's worth talking about where that comes from, because if you follow us on social media, you would have probably seen we say like aim for 100 grams or aim for 25 to 30 grams per meal. And that's really, again, it's like a starting point.
Yeah.
It isn't a one size fits all, because everybody has different sizes, different goals, different body compositions. But really most people are quite below that.
Yeah, like I'd say typically when we see new clients come on board, or we get them to track the food and see where they're at, some people are somewhere between like 20 and 60 grams a day. So we know like just even as a baseline of them hitting 100, like that's gonna often give an improvement from where they currently are.
Yeah. And on that note, what improvement? Because most people's goals aren't to build Arnie style muscles. That's not what they're after.
Yeah.
And that's what we kind of like historically people think, I need to build protein, I need to get muscles.
Need to get jacked.
Yeah, that's not why we're saying it.
No, it's for so many different reasons, but the main ones are going to be, especially if you're looking to try and like lose weight, it's going to increase satiety, so you're going to be fuller for longer. And then the other one is that it's going to burn more calories. But then it is the building blocks of if you are doing resistance training and you're like, anytime anyone says I'm looking to lose weight or want to lose 10 pounds, what you're actually saying is I want to lose 10 pounds of fat. You want to maximize fat loss, not just weight loss. And in order to do that, you're going to need to eat adequate amounts of protein and be doing strength training. So again, protein becomes really important. So you get that toned look that everyone is looking for when you lose weight. So you lose fat instead.
Yeah, and you don't want to end up, I know this is a horrible phrase, but it is the phrase people use to describe themselves, skinny fat look, where the number on the scale says what you wanted it to say, but you look in the mirror and you think, well, this isn't what I thought that would look like. That's where the lean muscle comes in to give you that frame and that shape that is what you thought that number would look like.
Yeah.
Okay, and we've said as well, it's the building block to muscle, but it's the building block to everything. And honestly, there are so many parts of your biology which rely on protein. That's like your enzymes, your hormones, your neurotransmitters, your immune system, like everything. So forget for a minute body goals of like a weight or a look, like actually just being a healthy human.
Yeah.
You probably need more than that baseline that they're saying is an RDA. That is just like no one should really eat below that.
Yeah.
So if you feel like fatigued, if you feel like you're constantly getting sick, if your hair is really rubbish and your nails are really brittle, like a lot of the time, increasing your protein can help with that.
Can help massively, yeah. And it's an easy thing to just look at. Like you can often look and be like, right, do I have any protein in my breakfast? Most people are going to say no. It's like, okay, how much protein are you getting in your lunch? I mean, it's like maybe 15 or 20 grams. All right, how much are you getting in your dinner? Maybe you're getting 30. It's like, you get like 50 grams protein a day. I would say that's like a lot of people, they're probably getting nothing or very little at breakfast. So just starting to make some simple changes, like having a higher protein breakfast, like building your plate around protein first, getting more protein in your lunch and your dinner. It's just a few simple changes and you can start to get a lot more, feel a lot better, look a lot better, recover better, have more energy.
Yeah, amazing. And we've talked about lower energy levels and immune system and hair, nails and skin, but also something that I think that isn't talked about is hormones. And your hormones are built of amino acids as well, which is the building blocks of protein. So if you have been like restricting your calories, eating not enough protein, it's not uncommon for people to feel like periods go a little bit funny, or there are other signs that your hormones aren't particularly happy. And one of the things that we work with, particularly perimenopausal women as well, is getting that protein up. And this can help with that as well, just like regulating, making sure they've got those baseline building blocks. Yeah,
you've probably had the similar experience. I've had a lot of ladies that have come in and have said, oh, I've not had a period for 2 years. I've not had a period for a long period of time. And, typically going into a calorie deficit, because these women are signing up wanting to lose some body fat as well, is going to put like a level of stress on the body. It's not a calorie maintenance. But for us, we've got to play on the sides of like, well, this person wants fat loss results, but we also want to get them healthy at the same time. And often by us giving them a good macronutrient split, focusing on whole foods and more nutrient dense foods and getting enough protein, within like a month of them being coached, like my periods come back. Like it's the first time I've had a period in 2-3 years. And it is looking at their diet from a much more holistic approach, and then the body responds in a really healthy way, because not having a period, unless you're on sort of like birth control, is a sign that like one of your systems in your body is basically saying like you're under so much stress that you're not in a place to get pregnant. Which again, there's actually seasons and times for that. Like your body's responding in a certain way for that. But again, your diet plays a huge role in this. And if you're someone that's done fad diet after fad diet after fad diet, the lack of nutrients, like the lack of, I would say, maybe I can pull up a statistic on this, but like most of the women we coach are malnourished in some way, because they've done so many fad diets that are so restrictive for so long. So they're just lacking a lot of micronutrients, protein, amino acids in their diets, that when their body gets it back, it's like, it's just soaking it back up and responds in such a healthy way.
Yeah, definitely. And it does make losing weight feel easier when you feel better. Like there's nothing worse than trudging along on a calorie deficit thinking this is just miserable, when's it going to end, and like being starving all the time, feeling really depleted all the time. And you can be on the same number of calories but feel completely different. Yes, from eating more whole foods, but actually even just upping your protein can achieve that. So that's one reason it's so great for weight loss. Other reasons why we would really advocate upping your protein if you want to lose weight is that satiety that you mentioned. And it's easy to say, and obviously you'll see posts all over social media like, it will keep you fuller for longer. But the reasons for this are, one, it is quite difficult for your body to break down protein into amino acids. It's a bit of a complex structure, so it takes a long time. So it takes like 3 to 4 hours for your body to break down a protein in your digestive system. If you compare that to carbs, especially processed carbs, it can take like 15 minutes. So if you think, well, I've had a 100-calorie snack bar, it was only 100 calories though, so that was a good choice. But 15 minutes later, you're hungry again because your body's digested it and it's gone, right, that was only 100 calories, guys, where's the rest?
Yeah.
It's going to backfire. Like, if you're listening to this and you've tried to lose weight before, you've probably done this where you've then gone and got another 100-calorie bar.
Yeah.
And then in half an hour, you've gone and got something else. And before you know it, in an hour, you've eaten more than if you just had like a meal.
Yeah.
And so this is why we'll say, like, have a proper snack that's balanced with some protein, maybe some fats. Because if that then takes 3 hours to digest, you're not going backwards and forwards, along with all of that like mental turmoil of like, why can't I just have some willpower? I've just had a snack. Why am I having another snack? It's actually your body doing its job. So eating protein can help with managing your cravings, keeping full after each meal. And that also is because of that regulation of blood sugar. So you don't have the peak and the crash like you would have done with that 100-calorie snack bar. Even if you had the 100-calorie snack bar, but you ate some protein with it,
it helps.
It helps.
Yeah.
And it might sound a bit like, yeah, but then I'm going to have more than the 100 calories. I know it might sound a little bit backwards, but it will help because your blood sugar will be less of a peak and crash. You'll get less cravings afterwards. And yeah, you might eat, say, 170 calories instead of 100, but that's you then for a good few hours.
Yeah.
So it's playing the long game, and it's just looking at your nutrition as a whole rather than that short game of like, what can I do for the lowest calorie impact right now to solve my hunger?
Yeah, I got a couple of things on that. So first is like one, like protein is like harder to eat typically. Like if you think of like your higher protein sources, unless you're going into like sort of shakes and yogurts and stuff, you know, your meats are going to take longer to eat as a whole, which means you're going to be signaling more to your mind and your gut that you're chewing this food for longer and you're eating more solid whole food. So that definitely plays a role in the fact that it's just you know, that 100-calorie snack bar, everyone can just eat that mindlessly in like 3 bites.
Yeah.
Versus like, you know, you sit down and have a set portion of meat or something, it's going to take longer to eat and digest.
And also just to point out, like 100 grams of, say, chicken, it's actually quite a lot of chicken.
Yeah, you get quite a lot of
it's
food.
It's like nearly like a good percentage of a whole chicken breast.
Yeah, so if you look at that again, it's also actually really difficult. So I just said before, like, when I was away, I had a 500-gram steak, which had 125 grams protein in, which is an absurd amount. It is. And Stacey said, like, that would be difficult to eat.
I don't even think I could sit down and eat that much meat.
Yeah, which, you know, if you think about it, imagine saying to somebody like, I can't even eat this amount of food, and you're trying to lose weight. And that's kind of like the hack. If you like build your plates where you're getting high protein and, lots of whole foods and salads where you're like, that's a lot of food. Like you look at every meal, like that's so much food. You're like, yeah, you're losing weight. You're losing weight while eating a tremendous amount of foods and you feel full. So that's one. And then as you were adding protein to some of these other foods, this is such a great hack if you like a little bit of chocolate or like something sweet of an evening. If you just say like, hey, I'm going to have like a row of chocolate out of a bar, I could eat the whole bar. But if you just took like a row or row and a half of chocolate and then added that to some, say, Greek yogurt, put a little bit of fruit in there as well, and now you're getting like 15 grams of protein from the yogurt and a bit of fruit from there as well, and you're getting the taste of the chocolate, probably the same amount of calories that you would have got from eating like loads of chocolate, and you probably won't feel the compulsion to go back as much and have more. So you get the sweetness, you get some extra protein, you get some extra nutrients from the fruit, and it just works. Again, it makes it's you're always trying to fight that like compulsion of like what these processed foods are built to do, which is like stopping you going back and just wanting more and more and more and actually feeling satiated.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the other good thing with protein is it actually triggers your fullness signals in a different way than, say, chocolate or carbs as well. So it does affect ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone, differently, and you're less likely to have that spike again soon. So it's not just like, oh, in my mind, I know I've had something healthier and it's slower to digest. There is so many levels that it affects your hunger in a different way. It physically fills up more space on your plate. And you just said about like it's harder to eat. There's one thing that I wanted to mention that Jess, one of our editors, said earlier. She's like, yeah, but how many times have you been on a diet and then you're sick of chicken because you've been trying to eat your protein and all you've eaten is chicken?
Yeah.
So I think we should probably share a few other ideas. Like you've shared there, Greek yogurt. But what other good options? If people think, yeah, that's me, I always go back for those snacks and then I go back and I go back. What could they have instead?
Yeah, as in just like foods as a whole, like
or like particularly snacks. I think people find the hardest because we've all been told like, oh, just have a piece of fruit. Not actually the best advice.
I think it depends. I try to get more of my protein from my meals, just because, like when it comes to between having like a protein bar or just like a bar of chocolate, would rather just have the bar of chocolate and eat a bit more protein with one of my meals. So big protein sources for me at breakfast are like eggs or salmon, and an avocado as well. It's not like there's more calories from fat in an avocado than there is from protein, but there is some in there. Beans are great as well. Even just like switching out like your bread. So like if some people can, be getting like, they go, oh, I'm going for the lowest calorie bread, and you buy this like white bread that's like 70 calories a slice and has got like no protein in it. That's like, okay, yeah, the other bread might be 120 calories. It's got seeds in it, but it's got more fiber, it's got more protein, and then you're getting like 5 grams of protein or 7 grams of protein per slice of bread. So you're just thinking even a small swap there can make like a big difference. Like 2 pieces of bread, 14, 3 eggs, on top of that, there's 30 probably grams of protein, bit of avocado, 34, 35. It's like, there's little simple changes and swaps that you can make, and all of these food choices, sometimes even if they've got like a little bit more calories, they keep you so much fuller. So it makes a big difference. Lunch, we're really, really spoiled. We just get HelloFresh high protein meals, like 55 grams per, and we typically just have that for dinner, and we get it for 4 people, cook for the 2 of us, and then have it the next day. But yeah, there's this cod, prawns, like so many different types of fishes, chicken, turkey, steak, beef, mince, low-fat mince.
But what if you're a vegetarian?
If you're a vegetarian, it does get
vegan.
Or it does get more difficult. Yeah, I know a lot of people use like tofu. I do think like you can do it without using supplements. It's just you have to be so mindful.
You have to plan ahead for sure. Yeah. And it is a question that we get asked a lot of like, how the hell am I supposed to hit my protein target if I'm a vegetarian? And so I did think it would be helpful to share like what a day might look like to hit 100 grams of protein, because it can sound quite overwhelming. But a breakfast like you just described, like 2 eggs, some wholemeal bread, some baked beans. I know the Americans might be like, what?
Beans.
We eat beans for breakfast and it's delicious. But that breakfast is like 30 grams of protein.
Yeah.
And it's not a wild suggestion to have some eggs on toast with some baked beans. Not in England anyway. Then lunch, you could have a stir-fried tempeh with soba noodles, some mushrooms, some edamame beans, 35 grams of protein.
Yep.
And then dinner, some whole wheat pasta with some butter beans, some broccoli, and parmesan if you're a vegetarian. That would be, again, 35 grams of protein.
Yeah.
Common theme there, beans.
Yeah.
Which, you were saying, if you don't rely on supplements, you are going to be eating a lot of beans, pulses, legumes, so your chickpeas, lentils, and then soy-based products are going to be the mainstays of your diet if you're a vegan. But you can also add in, if you eat eggs. Eggs are an amazing source of protein and healthy fats. So it is... I don't want to take the difficulty away, because if it's new to you, it is difficult, but it can be easily done with the planning.
Yeah, I think that's always key when it comes to if you're new to trying to get more protein in your diet, having a handful of like go-to meals that have between 30 and 50 grams of protein in, that exactly what goes in them, the grams, the size of the portion. Just having that to fall back on makes it so much easier of like, oh, I'm having a really busy day, I'm just going to have this because I like it, and it's one of the 5 meals that I've got that I know gets this much protein. And then once you have that, it's like you've got these, and then if you get a little bit bored of it, okay, come up with some new meal ideas.
Or just change the flavouring. So like, say that stir fry example that I gave, maybe you have it with teriyaki sauce one week and you have it with sweet chili sauce the next week. Like, it does change it quite significantly. Change out the edamame for a different kind of green vegetables. So it can be easy once you've got that framework. You mentioned earlier...
What do you do for your meals, Stacey?
What do I do? Yeah. Oh, yeah, so I actually have 4 meals a day.
Okay. I know quite a few people do that, though. Yeah. I mean, just instead of having like those, that like mid-afternoon part where you're like, oh, I'm actually really hungry and I'm getting snacky, instead of just being like, oh, I'll try and have snacks and curb that hunger, just having an extra meal. Yeah,
and I'm definitely that person. I just can't last that long between meals. Doesn't matter how full of protein and fiber they are. After like 4 or 5 hours, I start to feel like really sick. I get like burpy. Yeah. It's really, really attractive. But yeah, I just have to eat more regularly. And that's either I could choose to have a snack, but then what I find is that just repeated snack that I described earlier happens, and before I know it, I feel sick because I've had like 400 calories of biscuits, cookies if you're in the US, and it's 5 o'clock, and then I don't even want my high protein dinner because I feel sick from all the biscuits. So for me, I've just come to the conclusion that I have my breakfast around 7. I have first lunch, I call it, at 11. I have second lunch at about 3.
Do you have a like, do you call it like Linner or something?
No, not that weird.
Like,
yeah. I just have first lunch and second lunch.
They have breakfast and brunch and lunch.
Oh, true. I could call it brunch, but it's usually leftovers, so it's not really brunch.
Okay, yeah.
It is first lunch. Yeah. So yeah, that's same as you. We just get a gusto, and I have leftovers at 11, and then second lunch at about 3. Because also the other thing I find, my son eats at about 5, and if I don't have my second lunch, I just pick.
I think people will love the idea of a second lunch.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds great, doesn't it? Who doesn't want a second lunch? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's often something like maybe a bagel with ham and cheese, or something. It's not like a hot cooked meal again, just because who has the time for 2 or whatever, but still focusing on that protein and something that's substantial. So it's not a snack as people would think of a snack. It's like a banana or a cereal bar. And then dinner at like 7.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, it does make it easier as well to break up that protein goal through 4 meals instead of 3.
Yeah, you're not having to do like a substantial amount of protein in a singular meal. And
so
I guess you're not having
like
to
25.
rely on snacks. Yeah, because you can get like high protein snacks, and people do get them. There are some though that like just like don't agree. Like certain protein bars do not agree with my stomach.
Oh, same.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to mention it, but grenade.
Yeah, grenade bars are not good at all. And then even like certain like protein shakes, like me and Sai have talked about this, we get this like energy lag after having like whey protein. Vegan protein tends to be fine. But I struggle to like want to drink protein powders. Like I'm never like, oh, I can't wait to have my protein shake. I have to like habit stack it. Like I'll have it straight after I've been in the gym, or it has to fit in somewhere else where I just kind of force myself to have it, which is not great from an enjoyment standpoint of trying to get your food. And I would prefer to get it all from Whole Foods, but busy days and needs must at times. And then I do definitely want to get into some like the protein hype that's been going on. So like as we said, there's like protein water, protein Weetabix, protein this, protein cereal, and often a lot of the time like the price is through the roof on this food, but also like it's just crap. It's like super ultra processed.
It's not even that much higher.
Yeah,
in
like
protein.
they have in Aldi, they've got like all these protein yogurts and protein like squirt drinks, and every time I've spoken to anyone who's had them, like the stomach's off straight away
Oh, really?
afterwards. Yeah, they don't feel good, and you get this like extra 20 grams of protein. It's like a cheap snack that you're like, oh, I should get in, but you don't feel great off the back of it. I know we're talking about all the benefits of protein here that make you feel good, but sometimes you do have to be mindful of the protein sources or choices that you're having, because if you're having a whey protein shake and feel like you need a nap afterwards,
Or your tummy feels awful.
yeah, and you're passing gas like nothing else, it's just like it's not great. But you can, there's definitely lots of protein sources that you can have that don't do that.
Yeah.
And it's just finding which ones that they are for you.
So something I think people might find interesting is I didn't have dairy for a long time because my son was allergic. And when I was breastfeeding him, that was nearly 20 months without dairy. And I still managed to hit my protein goal without dairy or eggs.
Nice.
So that's, a lot of people are like, yeah, but what did you have? Because you can't have shakes and you can't have Greek yogurt and you can't have cheese and you can't have eggs for breakfast. You're like, yeah, there's a lot you can't have.
Yeah.
But there's a lot that you can have.
Of course. Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, if you find dairy doesn't agree with you or whey shakes don't agree with you, it actually forces you to learn more about the other options out there. And so I did go down the route of like, right, which is the highest possible bread that I can get?
Yeah.
And like literally every food choice that I could optimize a little bit. I wasn't buying like high protein Weetabix or whatever, but just being like, by finding the seeded bread rather than the white bread, that makes a big difference. And so snacks or kind of picky bits didn't work the same way as well when you can't have dairy. And that did also help me move towards the 4 meals a day. But whatever there's a barrier for, whether it's you don't eat certain foods, you're a vegan, certain foods give you a bad tummy, you don't like certain things, there's so many options out there.
There's so many options, yeah.
And I think the benefits really outweigh the initial difficulty of having to just go and do a little bit of research. And it does take time, and it does take a little bit of like, I always say, sit on your laptop or on your phone and just do it with an online grocery shop, because you can look at all the instructions. You're not like stood in the actual store for an hour looking at the back of packets.
Yeah,
you
we
can
don't
do your research.
We don't actually bring this up, but we probably should more, because it's very prevalent and I believe most people's lives. But like, if you haven't used something like ChatGPT yet, it's an AI software. Everyone can use it. You can go in and type in ChatGPT. You could literally just ask it like, hey, like I'm these dietary requirements, so I need 100 grams of protein and I don't like this food. Could you give me, 3 meals or 3 different food choices at this grams to get them? And you can go into the shops and be like, oh, right, I'm going to get those 3 foods. I'm going to be able to build my plates around them. It's a great tool to use, especially for sometimes trying to hit something like your protein goal.
Yeah, and it just gives you that starting point. You can then go and see like which is the best brand for me or version for me, for sure. So yeah, it can definitely be done. One of the main things that we get asked about is snacks. So there are protein bars. There are things like jerky that get bandied around a lot. I know you love an egg.
So I'll definitely use shakes, bars, jerky, boiled eggs when I'm traveling, because it's kind of like, right, I'm on the go. I want to get my protein intake in. I'll typically eat like 2 meals when I travel, so I'm already like a meal down. And yeah, just being able to grab a protein shake that's got like 50 grams of protein in it, and get some beef jerky. It's like, okay, there's another 30, there's 80. I get 2 boiled eggs, what you can get in like most places now as well. I'm like, okay, well, I'm 92 grams of protein or three snacks there.
Yeah.
And then it's like getting another 100, because I aim for about 200. Getting another 100 from 2 meals. I'm like, as long as I get like a pretty dominant protein source in those 2 meals, that's fine. So like, I will use them. I don't feel my best if I'm eating beef jerky and protein shakes and protein bars every day. But if I'm on the road for 3 days, then yeah, it's fine. Like it's the benefits outweigh the pros outweigh the cons.
I think it's also changing the mindset of, a snack for most people is kind of a nice thing as well. It's not just to ease your hunger. For most people, it's like, oh, a cup of tea and a snack. Yeah. It's like
that's
a
very
ritual.
British. You've just said a very British thing.
Okay. Maybe a coffee and a snack.
Yeah.
But it's a bit of a ritual.
Yeah.
It's not just about the hunger. And I think changing your mindset around like, what is it needing to do for you? If you've got all your protein in all of your meals, like you said earlier, enjoy your cup of tea and your snack without guilt. Like, just have a chocolate bar because you've sorted your nutrition on the other 3 occasions that you're going to eat that day. That is ideal. If you haven't quite got there with your meals and you're ending up having to rely on your snacks, it does change what your day looks like, and it does change what your snacks are going to have to look like. Some people are fine with that. Some people aren't, haven't got that much of a sweet tooth. But from experience, I would say most clients would rather have a cup of tea and a snack than an egg at 3 in the afternoon.
I definitely agree. And I think it's just getting, like, if you've, let's say you've had like chicken salad for lunch, it's getting used to the fact that, like, the amount of meat that you might need to put in that salad now is like double what you're used to. And that's probably just going to take a little bit of getting used to. But it still means that you can have your chocolate bar at the end of the night because you're getting and you still meeting all your goals.
Are you ready to lose 30 to 60 pounds in under 6 months without restrictive diets, countless hours exercising, or any guesswork? Well, we help women over 30 do exactly that. Lose weight guaranteed. And 5 to 10 pounds a month is the average weight loss. And that's not a cherry pick statistic, that is the average. Your weight loss results are 100% guaranteed, and you will lose unwanted body fat. So apply now at bodysmartfitness.com. But only if you're a woman over 30 and you want to lose 30 to 60 pounds in under 6 months.
So
I think now's a good time to answer some FAQs because you just said about, at the end of the night, you haven't hit your protein goal or whatever. We get asked this all the time. Which should I worry more about, my calories or my protein if I'm trying to lose weight?
Your calories. Yeah. Calories are king. So, and your macronutrients, your protein, carbs, and fat add up to your calories. If you want to consistently lose weight, you have to stay in a calorie deficit. So, making sure you've stayed under your calorie goal is going to be the most important. If you're wildly under on your protein goal, and that's consistently happening, that's something to reflect on and fix, because that's then going to affect all the things we've just been talking about.
Yeah. Something I would always say as well is give yourself kind of 10% leeway each day. So if you're 10% under today, just eat 10% more protein tomorrow. Yeah. And like, it will balance out over the week. And there's no point getting too fixed on having to be
you
perfect.
You can go in as well and look at, especially on MyFitnessPal, you can look at the nutrients view, and you can put it on a weekly view as well, so you can see your averages. Yeah. And yeah, that's always what's going to be more important, is your average over the week.
And actually, whilst we're talking about averages over the week, me personally, I find it much easier on a weekday to get my protein and have my balanced meals, because I have my little routine, have my breakfast, have my first lunch. Yeah. I'm at home because I work from home, so I can, I know what's in my food and I can plan it. At the weekends, it's all a bit more of a free-for-all. Yeah. And maybe we'll go out for brunch or we'll go out for dinner, and it's harder to hit that goal. So on the weekdays, I do just try and eat a little bit more than I know I need. And then at the weekends, if I'm a little bit under,
have a bit more
it's
flexibility.
Fine. Yeah. Like, it's 2 days out of 7. The rest of the days we're a little bit over, and it balances out. So I think just having that kind of perspective that it's the bigger picture that matters as well.
Definitely.
Okay, next up is recently I've heard that your body can only absorb 20 grams or 30 grams of protein per meal. Is this true?
Wild. Yeah. If that's the case, my 125 gram of protein.
Oh, what a waste.
Yeah, what a
Jaymie.
waste. Yeah. That used to be it. Like, I know there used to also be like, oh, if you don't get your protein in 30 minutes after your workout, then you've wasted it. And you'd see people doing these like skip videos where they're like rushing home, and it's like it just turned 31 minutes. It's like, that's it. All my progress from the gym's ruined. Yeah. So no, like both of them, like are no. Total protein is for 95%, 98% of people, total protein for the day is what matters. If you want to go a step further, breaking out your protein throughout the day can have an impact for muscle building. But no, you can digest, I think it's somewhere up until like, and it's going to depend off body size. So I'm like 6'3", 200 pounds. If somebody's 5 foot, 105 pounds, the amount of protein that their body can probably digest is going to be less than mine, just from a size standpoint. But anywhere from like 80 to 100 grams in a meal, most people can digest comfortably and still use. But yeah, the 25 to 30 grams one is wild. But yeah, there is, if you are like solely focused on building muscle, there is some merit to spreading your protein intake out throughout the day. But for most people, it's just not worth worrying about. It's like it's like another thing on the checklist that you've got to worry about, and it's just not needed. Like, I used to do that and don't anymore. for me, it's if you're like a competitive bodybuilder, like turning over every stone matters. If you're just looking to like get in better shape, look great, it's not needed. Yeah.
Definitely. And it ties into the other question about, is there like an upper limit of protein that's safe? Because some people are worried about like it's bad for your kidneys, or just it might be bad to have too much in general.
So we recommend like 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass. There's loads of like fitness people online that I see like way surpass that, and they ought to go for more like 1.5. I've seen people even go for like 2 grams of protein per pound of lean body mass. It seems really excessive, and long overuse of that high upper limit maybe could cause some sort of kidney issues. I don't actually know, but I know if people have got kidney issues previously, they have to, and they've probably already been advised.
They would know about it.
They will already know. For most people, the limits that we're talking about in protein, you're not even close. Not even close to it.
And actually, the research shows anything over like 1.6 grams, there's such a small benefit. There's just no need. Like some people will say 2 grams, like you said, but there's just no need to go that high. So anything between 1 and 1.6, you really don't need to stress about. If you do find a lot of people, when they increase their protein, especially if they're also monitoring their overall calorie intake, is they'll be like, oh my gosh, I haven't been to the toilet for like 4 days. Because what they've done is they've displaced other macros, possibly some carbohydrates, which have got fiber and stuff in, and they've replaced it with protein, which takes a long time to digest, which we've discussed. Yeah. And so there's just not as much stuff moving through the system.
Yeah.
And so that's when your key is to just really go back and look at, right, how's my overall plate looking? Am I still getting the vegetables? Am I still getting my fiber from somewhere? Am I hydrating enough as well to help with that digestive process? So it can be a bit of a transition if you suddenly up your protein and you don't kind of think of the bigger picture.
Yeah. You're going to, we've spoken about this many times, you're still going to want to make sure you're getting enough fiber in your diet. That's going to play a huge role in your overall digestive process. But yeah, anytime you make significant dietary changes, like your body is going to react, but it will quickly adapt and get used to what you're doing. And
especially if you do all the right things like hydrate and eat the vegetables.
Definitely. Yeah.
What about the idea, like this is probably an old myth, but I think it's still out there, that if you want to build muscle, you have to have protein. And loads of people will just say, well, have a shake. But there's this myth that they will make you gain weight.
Shakes will make you gain weight.
Yeah.
Yeah, so excess calories make you gain weight. Like you can gain weight because you're eating too many vegetables. It's pretty hard to do, but like if you can go to the shop sometimes and get the pre-chopped vegetables. They've got oil on them, and a tray is like 600 calories. So you could eat too many vegetables and it takes you into a calorie surplus, you'll gain weight. You sometimes see this on some of these, shows, like they used to do like a super size and super skinny, or they've done different ones, and they would show the diets, and sometimes the people who are actually quite overweight or morbidly obese weren't actually eating like the most unhealthy foods. It was just the sheer volume of food that they were eating, the portion sizes. So if you're eating a roast dinner full of vegetables in it, but like a roast dinner could be like 1,500 calories. And if you put certain gravies and toppings and cook it in oils, it could be like 2,000 calories in a meal. So no food inherently makes you gain weight unless you are excessively over-consuming on that food and it's taking you out, it's putting you into a calorie surplus. For most people, increasing the amount of protein in the diet is actually going to help them lose weight, increase satiety, increase that feeling of fullness, and it's going to help like just overall with everything to do with your health. Yeah, and to bring it back to that, keeping an eye on your calories as well. If you increase your protein, something else is going to have to give if you're keeping an eye on your calories. Yeah. So if you are tracking your food, which we would always recommend if you're trying to lose weight, then you won't accidentally gain a bunch of weight overnight because you start having a protein shake. There's a, Sai will find me in a study because they definitely can. There's a study that shows it was people who had protein shakes before they went to an all-you-can-eat buffet. Oh, yeah. So you'll be able to find it. I think they had it about an hour, or it was like 25 grams of whey protein, 30 or 60 minutes before they went to an all-you-can-eat buffet. And the amount of food that they consumed was like 30 or 40% less. And it is like, I've done that in the past where like I've ordered like a pizza and I've been starving and I thought, oh, I haven't actually hit my protein. I'll have my shake. I mean, the pizza comes and I can't even eat it all because I'm just full because that protein's digested a little bit and started to get into my system. So, you know, there are little things that you can do sometimes that if you actually struggle with, like I can be like gluttonous sometimes with food, especially if I'm hungry, which I think everyone can relate to. But doing stuff like that, you can use as a tool to like dampen your hunger at certain points. So like say you're like, oh right, I've been super busy all day and we're going out for dinner tonight. And like, you know, if you went to dinner and you've not eaten all day, you might just have a starter, a main, a dessert, 2 glasses of wine. It's like, crap, I've just, you know, had a protein shake on the way. And it's like, oh, now you go. And you're like, all right, I'm a bit full already. And then you have your main and you feel much better off the back of it.
And you're more likely to make a choice that aligns with your goals and just want all of the things.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're still on the FAQs. I've got one that kind of ties into this, which is, this is from one of our client groups. So it's in her own words. Getting your protein in without going over your calories is really tricky. I'm only 5 foot tall. My calories are 1,300. I have to be very mindful with every food choice. I still can't get enough protein, but I can always get enough carbs. Ha ha ha.
Yeah. I guess there's a couple of things to address there. Like people go, 1,300 calories, that seems like super, super low. You got to remember, like your calories is energy, and how much energy you need is going to be based off the size of the person. So if the taller people are typically heavier, shorter people are typically lighter. So that's just going to be like taller, bigger people need more energy. Smaller, shorter people need less energy. Like
and this lady's only 5 foot tall.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. That makes sort of like logical sense. And if she's maybe not like super, super active and is looking to lose weight, that could be an appropriate calorie deficit. So that's just the first one, because I just know like people hear these low calorie numbers and it's like, that's going to malnourish that person and yada, yada, yada. All I would say is if I were to be somebody that's on 1,300 calories and struggling to hit my protein intake, I would just look at breakfast, lunch and dinner, and I would only put my protein sources in first. So if I'm looking to get 100 grams of protein, that's going to be 400 calories, which means I've got, why can't I do the math? 900 calories. God, it's been one of them days. I've got 900 calories left for my carbs and fat.
Which when you put it like that, you're like, actually, that's okay.
It's not that bad. Yeah, I've got 1,300 calories. 400's being spent on protein. I've got 900 for my carbs and fat. So I would look at it like that, and then it's like, right, get my protein in for those 3 meals, fill the carbs and fat however I want with other food choices.
It really is just changing how you approach nutrition, because so many of us have grown up with like a repertoire of meals, or this is just what you have for breakfast, this is just what you have for lunch. So like cereal, a sandwich, and pasta for dinner, all of which are based around carbs. If you just change the way, like you just said, of how am I going to even plan my meals, I'm going to start with the protein, it's a game changer. Like it isn't a battle anymore, because the main thing that you've thought of when you think of that meal isn't a carb to start with, it's the protein source. Yeah. And then, like you say, you can fill in the gaps with all the other bits.
What you might go is okay, right, from a macronutrient standpoint, if you're getting 100% protein from that food, you could do it like that. But, you know, typically some foods that have got protein in come with fats. Yeah. So if you're having like salmon's also quite high in fat. If you're having certain steaks, you know, or like 15%.
Or even eggs.
Yeah, eggs, they can be. But you actually can, like if you wanted to just be really objective about it, you can strip these back. Like you could just have, like, right, I'm having egg whites for breakfast. I wouldn't advise that. It tastes like crap. You just do. You know what I mean? But like you could have just like turkey for your meat sauce for lunch. And then, you know, for your dinner, again, you could have like a chicken or some sort. You can find really lean protein sources that have like very minimal fat on them as well. I mean, you can really build your plate around it that way. If you don't want to and you want to get a bit of fat from those protein sources as well, that's fine. You just got to make sure that you're factoring that in as well.
Yeah. And that brings me on to another confusing point, which I definitely took a while to get my head around this when I started learning about nutrition. 100 grams of chicken is not 100 grams of protein.
Yeah.
So can you explain that?
Yeah, so 100 grams of chicken is going to be the weight of the meat, but that's not going to necessarily mean like 100 grams of chicken is probably...
It's about 20 grams.
Yeah, maybe.
Chicken breast.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, maybe. How I kind of see it is like, it depends off the weights of the meats, but like it's like a pound of meat is actually like 100 grams of protein. But again, it's going to depend on different food choices and sources. But yeah, 100 grams of protein or 100 grams of anything doesn't equal 100 grams of protein or 100 grams of fat, or however you might see it. So again, it's just taking that time to look at nutrition labels. Like I feel like all the foods I eat, I've looked at the nutrition labels several times or more than that, and you just kind of know now. You have a good
either look at the
guesstimate.
nutritional labels or use an app like MyFitnessPal, because you can't just say, well, I've got 100 grams of chicken on my lunch, so I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm done for the day. Sorry. Okay, next up, we have a similar question, I guess, to what we were talking about earlier is, do you have some ideal recommendations for breakfast, lunch, dinners, and snacks?
Yeah, sorry, I just want to go back to that one a sec.
Oh, yeah.
100 grams of protein is about 3 chicken breasts.
Yeah.
Ish, maybe
Ish.
3.5.
Depends how big they are,
Yeah,
but
which for like, I think the reason I wanted to just come back to that is like, oh, if you thought like 100 grams of protein was 100 grams of chicken was 100 grams of protein, that's not a lot of food. And everything we've just talked about is that protein is like highly satiating, hard to overeat on, and you want to factor it into your diet. So it's like 3.5 chicken breasts is closer to that. So it's a significant amount of food to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're eating whole food protein sources, like we just talked about, chicken, 3.5 chicken breasts is a lot. But there are lots of protein options in the shops, as we mentioned earlier. They are an easy source of protein, but what would your stance be? Like, where would they fit in somebody's diet?
I really see protein powder as just like condensed food. Like that's literally like all I see it as. It's just like condensed food, and if it's a tool that helps you get your protein intake in consistently, then great. I would try and go with a reputable brand. There are definitely some shadier brands out there that will say 25 grams per scoop on the label, and if you actually look at the studies or if people have investigated them, you're getting like 12. So that's never great. You're going to want to find something that's like, yeah, reputable brand, agrees with you, so you feel okay after you have it. Sometimes like opting for like a vegan protein instead of a whey protein could help with that, and that's fine. Where my issue comes is if people are starting to get the majority of their protein intake from like supplements. So, I'll speak to someone and they're like, all right, I'm having like we have a company called Muscle Food that sends out like pre-packaged, 30 grams of protein or 40 grams of protein. It's like a microwave meal. It's like, right, you're having that. Then you're having a shake, a double shake, and then you're having a protein bar. It's like, yeah, you're getting 100 grams, 110 grams of protein in your diet, but like it's all heavily processed sources that you're getting them from, and I wouldn't say is the healthiest long term to be having on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
Shakes, I'm a bit like neutral about. I feel like if people need to have shakes every day and it helps them hit the protein goals, fine. But I always see like the other supplements around that. It's like a tool, maybe when you're traveling or you're really busy, but not something I'd want to see in. Like I wouldn't want to see a protein bar in somebody's diet every day.
Yeah. And it can be a bit of a crutch, especially if you're always 10 grams short every day. Like that can seem like the quick fix and the quick answer. The other thing that I wanted to add as well with protein shakes is, you've even said this, it's not the most enjoyable thing to have every day. No. And so if you can actually find a way to just like have a slightly bigger lunch and hit your goals with real food.
Have a second lunch.
Yeah, or a second lunch that you actually enjoy, that's a way better way to live. And so I often say to clients, like at the start, whilst you're trying to figure this all out and we're trying to achieve a goal, by all means use them as a tool. But like our longer term goal isn't that you have a shake every day for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
However, you are probably going to want this much protein every day for the rest of your life. So let's find a way you can do that in a way that feels enjoyable. And the other thing to bear in mind is as your calories increase, when you do reach your goal and you increase your calories to maintenance level, you're probably going to eat a little bit more protein as part of that as well. So if you're just scraping by using a shake at the moment, that's going to become a problem when you actually need to get a little bit more even when you're eating a bit more. So just being a bit adventurous, exploring different options. Like when we were talking about edamame and tempeh and all these vegan options earlier, some people might have been listening and thinking, what is she saying? But actually there's really great foods out there that don't even come into our shopping baskets because we have our rigid list of stuff that we have every week. And just getting a bit adventurous, you could find something that you can incorporate that's really delicious, adds to your protein goals, and just boosts your overall health as well because it's adding more variety to your diet.
Yeah. So not against shakes, but I definitely like, I kind of see it as like they are processed food. And if you've listened to this podcast for any length of time, we're always trying to get people to dial back the amount of processed foods that they have in a diet. It's definitely a tool to be used at certain times. And again, if some people do need them and use them and they're happy with the brand that they use them, fine. But yeah, I would always opt for whole foods where you can.
And not shakes, but other things, so like protein bars, protein snacks, protein yogurts, we've kind of covered already because that was part of the question from this lady. She's put, I know most of them are very processed, so I probably know the answer already. So you did just confirm
it is.
what she was wondering.
You will notice, like, you probably don't feel the best off these food sources.
Yeah.
Like, I find if I have like I've started having much higher protein and like maybe just like veg or like salads with my lunch, like low carb, and that's been like, after I eat that, I just feel great. Like I just feel great after I've eaten it. If I have like a protein shake, or if someone gave me like an Aldi protein yogurt, like I'd be like, ugh, like I wouldn't even want to have it because I know afterwards I'm probably going to feel like a lag and maybe I'm going to feel a bit bloated, a bit gassy, and it's just like I'm not having that food because it's like it tastes good or it tastes better. It's just it's not going to make me feel great. So yeah, there's you look at like steak, it's just like steak ingredients. You know what I mean? You look at like these Aldi yogurt shakes and they're just full of so many different things. And that's why I say like go with sometimes the more reputable brands. They've probably invested a lot more time and resources into making a product that's going to agree with you a bit more. And even still, like some of them might not, and you've got to go and try and find something else that works.
Yeah. One more supplement that we get asked about a lot is collagen.
Yes.
And it's actually marketed for many different things out there. So it might be for skin, it might be for just general health, it could be for gut health. And that's because there is actually research, not necessarily robust research, but there is research to back up all of those claims. Mm-hmm. And it comes back to what we were saying earlier, that protein is the building block of every single cell in your body. And collagen is like your connective tissue. So if you think of like your tendons and your ligaments and the fascia, so like the tissue that wraps around your digestive system, that is built up from collagen. And so people thought, hey, if we eat the collagen, then we'll have more collagen. But the thing is, because of the amino acid pool, which is all the different building blocks just chucked in a mix from what you eat, your body will pick out the bits it needs to build the thing that it wants to build right now. So if it wants to build collagen, it will just go and pick out those bits and it will build some collagen. You don't need to eat collagen to make collagen. And so, yes, there is research to support taking collagen for certain things, but in my opinion, you don't need to take collagen. You can just increase your protein. And in a lot of these studies, the people who started supplementing with collagen didn't have an overly high baseline protein intake. So you could probably see an improvement if you weren't improving other areas of your diet as well, but it is expensive.
Yeah.
And the amount of actual protein you get, so it is something that the one area of study that has really robust research is in bone mineral density and joint pain for collagen. And so my mum's actually just broken her back and I was like, you need to take collagen. But yeah, so that one has got really robust evidence. And so she's taking it, but it's like 5 grams or 10 grams a day. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to take collagen and it's going to be this magic solution, if you think about actually your protein goal and your whole overall diet, it's probably not the answer. You need to zoom out and look at the bigger picture.
I think with all supplements, they're always like the icing on top. If you're hoping to take a collagen, supplement to, fix all this other, or to be this magic supplement that does all these other magical things, but you're getting 30 grams of protein or 40 grams of protein, and that gives you an extra 5 or 10. It's just like the benefits you'd get of just like doubling your protein intake would far outweigh taking that supplement. But yeah, it is expensive, and there's more and more data coming out around collagen. So it's like a nice to have is basically
it's
what I would say.
It's not going to do any harm, generally, but I can't get over how expensive it is.
Yeah.
Have you ever bought it?
No.
It's like a little tub like this.
Yeah.
It's like 30 to 50 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
I guess like the plus side of it, you can just stir it in. It doesn't taste of anything. So you can like put it in your coffee or something. So if people can't really stomach a shake, they might think, oh, cool, I can just have that in my coffee. But it's only 10 grams.
Yeah.
So it's not going to make that much difference.
Yeah, I mean, that might be the 10 grams that some people need, and if that's what they want to get and supplement more collagen, like, I'm not against it, but I just, it's not miracle powder. It's basically, and especially if there's other parts of your diet or your sleep or not drinking enough water or just like all the other things that we talk about on this podcast are not happening. Like the returns you will get off putting your resources and time and money into that are going to far outweigh it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
You take all the supplements in the world, you're sleeping 5 hours a night. It's like, I'm giving you 2 thumbs up right now. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just like, you know what I mean? You're putting your time and resources in the wrong place of the problems to fix.
So just to summarize then, for somebody who's starting out on a weight loss journey and they want to figure out, like, am I eating enough protein? Where do they even start?
Yeah, so you can go over to bodysmartfitness.com to take our calorie quiz. That'll just ask you for your age, height, weight, estimated body fat percentage. It'll give you a calorie goal and a protein goal based off your lean body mass. That's a great place to start. You're going to have your calories, you're going to have your protein, and you can focus on starting to get that into your diet on a consistent basis.
And probably a good place to start doing that is look at your breakfasts, look at how much you're getting in each main meal, and build your meals around those protein sources rather than around maybe the traditional carb sources that you would think of when you're planning your meals.
Yeah, because that breakfast is the biggest culprit that people are just like not getting any protein in. But if you do that, if you literally like start a fresh day on MyFitnessPal and just build the protein amount into like thirds or maybe into quarters if you're getting a second lunch like Stacey, then it just becomes so much easier. You're like, right, okay, I've spent 600 calories on protein. Now I'm going to fill the rest of my meals with the calories I've got left.
Yeah, and take your time. Like, you don't, if you're eating 50 grams of protein at the moment and the calorie calculator says you should be having 120 and you find that impossible, build up over time.
Yeah,
like
that's great advice. Yeah.
Yeah, if you can get to 70 this week and 90 next week and 120 in a month's time, amazing. But that's going to feel way more enjoyable and doable than going, oh my God, I need to have 70 grams in a shake to make up this gap.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a long-term solution. So just build yourself up, start making these small changes and you will get there.
I think the awareness, like we say, getting 1% better every day, you do that over a year, you get 37 times better. If you just bring in this awareness to getting more protein in your diet, and you've got an idea that your protein goal is, say, like 120 grams, and you just start to become more aware of protein-rich foods and making choices and go from 50 to 60, and then like, oh, you found something that you really like, and now you're at 90. You can start to take those big steps, and like give yourself, I guess, it's like a little bit of time to figure it out, and then it's not going to feel as overwhelming. And then all of a sudden you're having like a pretty high protein diet, and it's feeling quite easy.
And you can reap all the benefits. If you didn't know, I am a weight loss coach, but I've also lost over 50 pounds myself, so I do know how hard this journey can be. Jaymie and I built the Body Smart method to cut through all the BS out there and bring together the latest weight loss science to fast track your weight loss. None of the frustrating trial and error that I battled with myself. Over 4,000 women have lost 15 to 60 pounds within 6 months with us, whilst also gaining healthy habits, skills, and knowledge, which mean they'll never have to diet again. Now, we know that you have thrown hundreds, if not thousands of dollars at this before and been disappointed endless times. So at Body Smart, we are so confident that you'll get results with our method. We have a full money back guarantee. To apply to work with one of our expert one-on-one coaches, go to